Alright, so we are back. Part 2, covering AEW New Japan Forbidden Door 2. Last we left off, we were finishing up talking about Jack Perry's heel turn, his match with Sonata, and opening up the longest sort of story going in, or one of the longest sort of stories going into this card. We have the Elite facing off against the BCC, but each team has grabbed two guys to come join them in this match because Kenny Omega's occupied in one match and Bryan Danielson is occupied in another.
And Punk is busy and disinterested with fighting 30% of the folks on this in this match.
Yeah, no lie.
He doesn't want nothing to do with Eddie Kingston either. 40% of the people in this match.
He's ducking Eddie Kingston. He's afraid.
You know what? Throw Ishii in there too. Half of the people in this match he wants nothing to do with physically.
I would honestly say everyone in this match, given how hard everyone in this match hits. And we'll especially get into a certain someone in this match who will spot where he hit hard, and it was one of the shocking moments, essentially, because of how hard he hit.
But, what'd you think of the match, Jack?
I really loved this match, especially because, you know, the way they got to this point was so crazy, you know. Like, I don't know if you've seen the segment, sir, but to close Dynamite, it was crazy. Usually, you know, you close with a match and all that, and you get some sort of post angle. They closed with a promo from Eddie King. Oh, wait, no, that was the go home. They were doing, oh my gosh, what was the match? I forget what the match was, but you get this huge sort of like crazy segment where they're brawling after the match, and then you have like all these people running down to like make the save. Like you had Kenny Omega come out, you had Konosuke Takeshita come out, then you had Eddie Kingston make his return, and then you had Will Ospreay show up, and then they do this whole thing where it's like, I really loved it. Instead of just trying to make it seem like Eddie's all fine and dandy with teaming with the Elite, he's like, I don't like any of you all. I'm just doing this because we have a common enemy, and that enemy is Claudio Castagnoli.
Yeah.
But so, of course, the BCC, they grabbed Takeshita to help them out, and they, because it's New Japan x AEW, they grabbed Shota Umino to help out, you know, and so that leaves the Elite needing one more man, and Eddie Kingston says, I'm going to handle this, so I can get someone that I may not like and trust, but I trust them a whole lot more than you do, and that's when he goes out and grabs Ishii.
Somebody who will be participating in his block of the G1 Climax this summer.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see Eddie in the G1.
It's just all Eddie. All the Eddie matches. Just that one block. Please and always.
Your number 10 spot for this year's top 10 matches of the year might just have to be called the Eddie Kingston G1 Classic.
Let's go. Let's just group them, you know? Yeah, they just take the 10 spot, all of them. Yeah,
but this match...
Yeah, and you know, I was thoroughly entertained by the match too. This one went long, but it goes in and out of being like exciting. You know what I mean? Like as soon as I'm thinking, "Gosh, we're still here," they really ramp it up. I do want to just add this caveat before we start talking about spots and moments. I am a bit resentful that Takeshita's here, like in this match. He's had this ongoing storyline with Kenny Omega that, you know, I guess he's busy. He's got more important things to take care of tonight. But it's just sort of maddening, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That like lost in this 10-man muddy water. But there's some violent muddy water, as you said.
Yeah. And there was just so much to this, you know, like the fact that, you know, like Moxley the entire time, for the most part, like, he starts off avoiding Eddie Kingston. Like, he doesn't want to look at him. He doesn't want to, like, interact with him. Like, there's a spot where they're both tagged in and Moxley just tags out afterwards, you know? Like,
at the beginning, I think.
Yeah, like, he just doesn't want anything to do with him.
Start the match with him. And you know what? Yeah, later, like, it is chaotic and it is wild and there's a lot of moving parts. But I think they played it perfectly. When Eddie tags in, he's standing there waiting for Mox to turn around. And when Mox turns around, he doesn't show any emotion in his face, but he does pause. He does stop. And I thought that was a really cool moment.
Yeah, that was real cool. There was the crazy spot where, you know, Takeshita was going for the diving clothesline, and like Hangman does that spinning forearm into him, and it looked.
Yeah.
My only little gripe with it was that like they should have made an audible, and I get like they were trying to do all these crazy like transitioning like one spot into another, but I wish Hangman would have sold it because they both got each other on that one, you know.
Yeah.
Like they made it seem like Hangman got the better of him on that one, but like he took the clothesline as well, you know. Like,
and I'll tell you what, looking at these notes again, remembering 2 days ago, Ishii, I was so excited with how much offense he got in and how good he looked in this 10-man affair. Again, 10 men, but the guy got a lot in.
Yeah, and I think the fun part, you know, was like, you know, it's the whole point of Forbidden Door, but it was cool, and like a lot of people realized just kind of how, like, not necessarily special, but unique in a sense that the matchup was. That Takeshita, who spent, you know, all his time in DDT, was here interacting with Ishii from New Japan, you know?
Yes.
And, you know, they had some great spots where they were just going at it. And, of course, I mentioned it, I'll bring it up now. They had probably my spot of the match where the two are facing off, and then Takeshita just comes in, hits him with a huge elbow, and Ishii does probably the most anyone can do for a young guy like Takeshita and really puts him over. A tough guy like Ishii just goes, lays out, and is knocked out after his hit. So much so that he's knocked out on the ring apron, and the Bucks are trying to check in on him and make sure he's still alive.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, that was my spot on that. I really loved that. I loved how much he put over, like, Takeshita with just that one spot, you know. And it was so funny seeing people's reactions to it, because a lot of people were like talking about like Ishii like as if they were their uncle. So they were like, "Unc, get up!" After seeing him get knocked out like that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But he's gone on record saying that, like, you know, he doesn't have that much left in him, right? So we're like on his unofficial retirement tour. That's why I was surprised to see him like do as much as he did.
Yeah, and especially, you know,
was it Cesaro? There's a spot where Cesaro's just gonna go for a suplex, a vertical suplex, and Ishii goes, "No, we're going this way." Boom.
Yeah, he hit that huge brainbuster.
Yeah,
that was real good. I gotta mention as well, because it was what led to one of the future matches. When watching that Dominion 6-man as well, I really loved a lot of the work he was doing in there. We got, you know, in that match and this match, we got to see him interact with Claudio Castagnoli, who all his time spent in WWE as Cesaro. Who would have thought we would get to see them interact, you know?
This is very true.
Yeah, that was real fun.
Also, be remiss not to point out the Young Bucks are just very good at what they do. You know, lots of tandem offense that were laden with, like, you know, those real audible, like, trash talking spots, you know?
Yeah. And then you gotta mention one of the big story points of the match. They're about to go for a super kick on Jon Moxley, and Eddie Kingston pushes him out the way and takes the super kick. And I think they mentioned that at Double or Nothing 2021, I believe, it was Moxley taking the super kick for Eddie Kingston in a tag match against the Bucks. So it was like a sort of reversal of roles.
As well.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool to see, you know. And another sort of surprise, as you talked about with Ishii, he gets the pin in this match.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, that was real fun to see. He finishes it off with the brain buster, and the Elite get the win here.
Was that on Umino?
Did he get it on Umino, or did he get it on Yuta? I forget.
Oh, or Yuta, yeah.
It was definitely one of them. I wish we got to see more of Umino in this match. I felt like we didn't see a lot, but then again, it's kind of tough to expect them to have sort of interactions with a lot of the guys on the opposing team.
After a great final sequence, Ishii scored the win for his team by pinning Yuta.
Ah, okay.
With a brainbuster.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I think that's the one, like, not necessarily odd man out, because it's like, you could also say Ishii is kind of like the odd man out in this one, but like, it kind of felt weird that, like, other than Ishii, Umino didn't really have a whole lot to interact with, you know, because it's not like he has any sort of story bits with like Hangman or Eddie Kingston or like that, you know. So
I listen to Cultaholic, a wrestling podcast, and the local like New Japan expert, Jack, he was talking about Umino as a guy who went on excursion and came back, and he says, and usually they come back with a character, and he goes, I'm not sure what Umino's character is. He's kind of like a little Tanahashi. And he goes, and I just don't know if it's clicking with the fans yet. And I go, what a great way to put it. I thought he was like a kind of a pink and shiny, Moxley, right? Because he's sort of like the, J-pop Death Rider. But like I loved like Tanahashi.
And I totally forgot about this. One of the cool spots was when Moxley and Kingston end up in the ring, and they just start like going at it with each other. And in the background, you see like all these crazy spots happening, like suicide dives, Hangman doing his moonsault, and the entire time they're just still in the ring going at it, and it doesn't stop until
they once and for all just started going after each other. Yeah. And even though there were 8 men all over the outside of the ring, I was glued on the center of the ring.
Yeah.
Moxley and Kingston were having it out.
Yeah, this was a real fun match. Really liked this one. Moving on to our next match. It's for the AEW Women's World Championship. Toni Storm facing off against Willow Nightingale, who is the New Japan Strong Women's Championship.
We saw her win that title in person in Long Beach.
Yeah, that was a real fun event to go to. That was real fun to see. And now we have her here.
Pardo now when Willow Nightingale comes out.
Yeah, definitely the same. It was funny because he was watching this event with me. And it was funny because I was like, all right, man, what do you think? And he was like, I don't keep up with AEW, but I have a feeling Willow has no shot of winning this match.
It's for the, and again, for a champion versus championship match like this, I wish it was an exhibition match. Just to, showcase who's best, and, that would have made things a little less predictable.
Yeah, and I think, especially, to me, this is lightning in a bottle with what happened at, that New Japan show. But, one thing that was evident was, the fans all over the place are rooting for Willow. And, Tony Khan has something here. He could really capitalize and get some momentum. Now, I'm not saying you go and put the title on Willow, because with the way this title has had to flip-flop and have to deal with the whole interim mess from last year, it's you don't know if you want to do that, but, create a crazy moment like Willow winning and being double champion maybe, or just, as you mentioned, if it was an exhibition, getting the win and really start, building the momentum that was gifted to you by, the unfortunate injury that happened at that show. But even without that injury...
Yeah, a little bit of that is happening in WWE. We just saw Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler unify a couple of titles, and all of a sudden, the, women's tag team division just got stronger by this, lightning in a bottle moment.
Yeah, so definitely something I feel where it's just they have a star on their hands essentially, people really love Willow both in the ring, out the ring, and all that, and it's you got a real good thing on your hands. But right now we have Toni Storm with the championship, and with Jamie Hayter's injury, again, even more reason to try and pivot. It's what's the story we have with this title and the people involved? Because it's you can't really do any of the story you were wanting to do when the main character of it all got injured,
Goodness.
But anyways, what'd you think of the match, sir?
It was at this point in the night, sir, where I started to look away. I just, love Toni Storm, love Willow Nightingale, love Ricardo. I forget what I was doing, but I let myself do something, walked away from the TV. I'm listening and watching out of the corner of my eye. You're going to have to fill me in.
Yeah, I definitely felt that, with the way AEW shows tend to be a lot, they go pretty long, that was the one thing I liked about Revolution earlier in the year. It was like, because they had that 1 hour Iron Man match, the rest of the show was very short, you know? And I wish they would kind of learn from WWE that, like, what they learned through the pandemic was to start cutting the fat on the show, you know?
Yeah.
So by this point, you know, I was getting a bit tired, but I still tuned in because I like both women. But, you know, it was a pretty decent affair. You know, you had, you know, Willow getting sort of the advantage a lot of the times. And then you had, I believe the Outcasts were kicked out at one point. But, you know, oh yeah, they tried to slip the spray, but they get kicked out after that. But then, you know, they still tried to interfere. The only, like, real spots I can remember is Willow hitting that huge Death Valley driver to Tony on the apron. I thought that was pretty good. But then, you know, it's pretty predictable in the sense of, like, there's interference. Tony hits the Storm Driver. Is that what she calls it? I forget what she calls it. But she hits that, like, power driver, gets the win. And I can't remember if they attacked Nightingale after and Sky Blue came to the rescue, I think.
Really?
I can't remember for sure. Maybe I'm just mixing it up, because if you watch the weekly shows, that's the angle they run with, like, each week by week. Like, it's just always the same thing. They're beating down on someone and here come people to the rescue, and it's just like, I want something new with this women's division.
There's no mention of Sky Blue in Bleacher Report, but they do cite that her move is called Storm Zero.
There we go.
Yeah,
and she raked the eyes to get them.
Hey, we've got like 3 more matches to talk about, and they're big. But did you see any of the media scrum afterwards?
I saw a couple of, like, highlights, but I didn't see much of it.
Toni Storm is, like, in full character, saying she don't want to be there. She hates the press, you know, and she just wants to be somewhere else. She brought her food to the stage, you know. She's eating like you are, Jack. You're being a real Toni Storm. But I thought the one question you would be interested in here than asking was about Julia.
Oh, yeah.
Stardom. And she gives this really wild response of, what am I supposed to say? Oh, I'd love to. Oh, I'd be so honored. And she's like, stop being a mark. And then they asked about Jamie Hayter, and she goes, what, so you can break my nose again? And then she goes, you know what? Yes, I would like to fight her, because I want to break her nose back. You all want to see me break her nose? And I don't know, like, that character fell in and out of, like, insufferable, but also really, really fun and entertaining. But I thought you'd like that Julia question that she blew off.
Yeah, I saw that too, and people online were like, "Oh, it's gonna happen. It's gonna be in the works and all that." And, like, I have no doubt that maybe they'll find a way to negotiate. But at the same time, this is coming from people who don't watch the product. They just know, like, one big name.
Goodness.
You know, I'm not trying to be a mark, but that's just the way I feel with the way a lot of these people talk, and they're like, "Oh." Yeah. This person can face this friend. I'm just like, this just tells me you don't watch, because you don't know how protected a lot of these names you're proposing are. Like, you're going to be upset when this ends in a time limit draw because of the fact that Stardom doesn't like their like, not even their champions. They protect a lot of their wrestlers so hard. Like, they abuse the time limit draw, the disqualifications, because that's how much they try and protect their talents.
Tomorrow's headlines: Jack comes after fake Newton Stardom fans. And Stardom, and he's just straight up coming after Stardom. Quote: they abused the time limit draw.
This is my CM Punk media scrum moment.
This is your pipe bomb.
Yeah, because last year when we were making our list, right before the end of the year when we did it, they finally did the match I was looking forward to with one of my favorites from Stardom, Utami, facing off against Kairi. And it ended in a 15-minute time limit draw, and I was like, you bastards, I really wanted to put this match on my list, and you ended in a time limit draw. You don't give me a conclusive finish. So, like, seeing people bring up Stardom, I'm just like, I always sort of laugh a bit, because I'm like, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. You think you have issues with AEW and all that. you aren't ready for what they're gonna enforce when the fact that like they're not gonna want most of their like top stars facing off if they're not gonna A, win, or B, end in a time limit draw so they don't have their stars get pinned.
I felt that exact same way when we were at Supercard watching Eddie Kingston challenge Claudio Castagnoli, and they were in that chop off, you know?
Yeah.
And my buddy sitting next to me is watching the college female basketball finals on his phone. He goes, when are they going to do something interesting? And I go, uh-oh. You don't know enough about Eddie Kingston to realize it's not going to get any more interesting than what it is right now. He's going to chop that man for another 15 minutes.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, here's the match that was going to always give us a definitive finish. It's the highly anticipated rematch from their encounter at Wrestle Kingdom in January. Kenny Omega defends the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship against its previous champion, Will Ospreay.
Yeah. And I have a feeling I know which way you were rooting because a certain somebody was deciding to hold the title hostage.
Hostage, Jack? How could this be? Bring it home, Will.
Yeah. That was definitely my main issue, was the fact that Kenny wasn't being allowed to defend his belt more often.
Allowed. My man is not trying to defend that championship. He's Punk without the tood, you know? Get this, Jack. Here's another soapbox I'm going to stand on. Kenny Omega, the best bout machine in the world, is in a feud with who? Don Callis. Make that make sense to me, Jack. Why do we have the best bout machine in the world in a feud with a manager? You can tell me, actually, Mr. Solis, he's in a feud with Takeshita. No.
He hasn't interacted with him once.
No. He's in a feud with an old man in a bright pink floral, albeit amazing, suit.
And
who has offered his services to Will Ospreay in spite of his new enemy, Kenny Omega, by offering him protection, Jack. Security guards standing at ringside.
Yeah, I don't know why this was inserted, especially when in the lead up they asked Ospreay about like Canada, and he talked down on Don Callis as well because he's from Canada. So like, he already said it. He hated Don Callis. Why would he accept his help?
Is that what the security guards are all about?
They were there to protect Callis more from, even though like he was interfering, but like
that's what the commentator said later. When he gets involved, he grabs Kenny's foot and he runs behind those security guards, and they go, "They're here to protect Callis." You should have known. But I'm like, I had no idea why those two men were standing outside, why they were inserted, why Don Callis is trying to ruin my night.
Yeah. Yeah, but I definitely was looking forward to this match because the Wrestle Kingdom match was really good, you know. But what'd you think of this match, sir? Because online, a lot of people were talking all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, this match was a roller coaster of emotion. Because I'm all in my head about them security guards and about Don Callis, right? It goes on, and I literally am falling in and out of love with this match. And there's a point, there's a lot of near falls. This thing goes long. And I think at some point, I know what it was. So, and like there's a lot of like, for a match that's going to be like super work rate, there's a lot of like pandering and a lot of like sports entertainment-y, right? Because Will Ospreay and AEW and New Japan and Kenny Omega are all trying to pretend like Canada's not here for Will, but Jack, then people wanted Will to win this match.
Yeah, and not only that, but I saw someone mention this, and it's funny because this person like gave their rating, and everyone like, got all mad. Like it was just someone that like I see pop up on my like feed a lot, but like they gave their rating, and people were like, "Why would you give it this low rating?" He started explaining it. And I sort of started, like, realizing how much sense it made, where I was like, yeah, I'm sort of starting to see the flaws in this match. And it wasn't, like, me trying to, like, copy someone else's opinion or someone's opinion influencing my opinion in this match, but a lot of the flaws they started pointing out, I was like, yeah, that does make sense. Like, the one flaw they pointed out, I don't know if you noticed, but like the beginning of this match, Ospreay and Omega had like this sort of like feeling out stage of the match, like at the very beginning, and it was like, this is a run back from a match earlier in the year. Why are we doing this whole, like, as if, like, you guys don't know what to expect from each other, you know? Like,
you know, it's funny. I get that. I hear that. And I think that that part of the match is for the live crowd. You know, like, this is the first, like, even though they fought each other before, you should know what he's all about. Will was on that media scrum saying he's learned and done a lot to change, right? But also, I think that's something like that for the live crowd. You just, you know, we're going to start slow and then turn it up. I think that's really important because that's, and I think, you know, it may be like, it doesn't seem to fit the narrative, but I'm going to enjoy myself a lot more if I just take that narrative and chuck it out the window because I'm frustrated with the narrative.
Yeah, and then I definitely feel you, though. I felt like Callis's involvement in this match really kind of hindered a lot of it for me, you know? Because I think the one thing I like about the Wrestle Kingdom match was Callis took himself to commentary. He didn't get any point involved in that match, you know?
Oh, and he was on Kenny's side, so it was less complicated.
Yeah, versus this one, he was interfering a lot, but at the same time, I'm going to try as hard as I can to not let it interfere with a lot of what happened in the match, because it was a good match, you know? It was a great match.
But Will is, like, definitely playing the heel, and he just turned face in January. It was the return of the assassin, remember?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, but we're in Canada, and oh my gosh, they love the Canadian boys. I don't know. There was a lot of people rooting for Will as well.
Yeah, it felt forced, and I think another thing that made it, like, forced that way is that Will is a New Japan guy, and though when they do this event, it's not like New Japan is portrayed as the bad guys every time, you know?
Right.
But, like, for this match, because Kenny is AEW's guy, you know, that, like, they made Ospreay, like, the villain of the match when it was like, no, he deservedly, or he rightfully wants revenge. Left
in a puddle of two, leaders of his blood, right?
Yeah. So, like, he rightfully wants this revenge. Why would he be the bad guy?
And it's so funny because, like, Don Callis, in an admittedly clever way, he's got the ref distracted and he gives Will because they're playing tug of war with Will. Don Callis is outside, Kenny's inside. Ref tries to break it up, and then behind his back, he's going to sneak him the screwdriver jack that he turned on his son with. And I'm like, you know what? If he wins this belt right now, as long as he wins, I'm going to be happy. Am I going to be a little miffed on how he got there? Maybe. He stabs that man in the middle of the one-winged angel with that screwdriver, down to the ground. I forget if he hits a move, but he pins him, Jack.
He hits a Stormbreaker.
Hits Stormbreaker. Pins him. 1, 2. They got me. They got Canada. And the face Will makes is absolutely incredible. He is all bloody. And he's got his eyes wide open. Not like in that I'm afraid. Just like that. I don't know what just happened. It was great.
Yeah. And then after that, he does the V-trigger. He does a one-winged angel on Kenny, but Kenny kicks out at 1 to a huge
pop. 1! And it's at the screwdriver spot, Jack, where he kicks out and Will makes that face, and I'm like, this is it. This is my match of the night. This is everything. And I don't care about Don Callis. I don't care about those stupid security guards that look like Vito, that cross-dressing Italian from the early 2000s.
You know who my dad said they look like?
What did they look like?
He said they look like a knockoff AOP.
Ah!
But, and then...
No, I'm like, into this.
And then we get the crazy part, where even Ricardo was, like, blown away by it. The Tiger Driver 91, where I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, you know, shout out, basically reference to South Park. I was like, Kenny's dead after that. He killed Kenny with that one.
Do you follow Will Ospreay on Instagram?
I don't actually.
They made a shirt. It's called Storm Driver. And they have a drawing of him hitting it. They have a drawing of like the moment right before head meets canvas. And at the scrum, they asked, about whether, I forget what they asked about the move, but they called Tiger Driver 97, and he's talking about the move and about, how tough the sport is and the dangers that are in there. And he goes, and I don't know what you called it. And he's trying to pretend like he doesn't call it Tiger Driver. Shut up, Will Ospreay.
Yeah, but that one was crazy, and it was funny because Ricardo was like, even the ref thought he was dead and all that, and seeing that, I was like, that's crazy. I couldn't believe that didn't finish, but then we have the Stormbreaker to get the win.
Stormbreaker for the win. Ospreay's the champ. I was taken on that roller coaster, and I felt real good. This was officially my match of the night, and it is the one to beat, and there's at least one more match that could.
Yeah. I definitely have to re-review like the matches I've seen so far this year. I got my biases, of course, as to what could potentially top it, but yeah, this match was real crazy despite all the stuff that happened like in the beginning and obviously throughout it with like Don Callis, but can't take away from the stuff that happened in the match between the two, such as Ospreay busting Kenny open by just slamming him on that piece of announce table covering, and then the spot where he throws Will into the steel steps and you just see like the blood drooping down on it. I thought that was like a crazy visual.
Yeah. How much time we got left in this episode?
13 minutes.
Oof. With 2 matches, one much bigger than the other.
Yeah. So
what you want to do?
I think we could get it done. Potentially.
Okay.
If we need a third episode with just like, it doesn't have to be a full third episode, but we could, if we do need like just a little bit more time, we could do a short third episode if we want. But let's see.
I'm wondering if you want to know whether I thought this match was better than their January match or vice versa. We'll talk about that in that supplemental episode.
Yeah. So, moving quickly, the penultimate match of the night, like I said, Los Ingobernables versus, I forget what they called the other one. It's Jericho Guevara and Minoru Suzuki.
Suzuki Guns!
Yeah. And this time what's different, instead of Shingo, we have the leader. Naito is here to join Sting and Darby Allin. And so you have a match where you have a team. I saw people like make this joke where they said you got about 1.5 knees combined between Sting, Darby Allin, and Naito.
Dang! Whoa! What a hit job that joke is.
I think it's a valid point just because Sting's age and the way Naito is now. I find it funny that the thing that popped a lot of people was the fact that Naito was still wrestling in a shirt today or for this match.
I noticed that, and I was also crestfallen that he didn't sport the face paint like a lot of people who team with Darby and Sting do.
Oh, true. But yeah, I was excited to see Naito in this, especially because it's a trios match, so he doesn't have to work at fast of a pace, and he could work at his own. I knew he was definitely gonna annoy Jericho a lot, which he did a ton in this match.
Yeah, and I'm always a fan of Suzuki and getting to see him, even though we're in the twilight of his career as well.
Yeah. So I liked how, the main story of this match is the fact that Sting and Jericho have never had a face-off, I guess you could say, or like have never faced off because, Sting was always, main event scene. Jericho and WCW didn't really get to that point. And then when...
Jericho never made the jump to Impact, so was never going to happen.
Yeah. So we got to see that where they faced off against one another. There was a crazy spot where Guevara does the 630 through the table onto Sting, and it looks like Sting wasn't supposed to take it because he tried to slip out at the last second, but he doesn't make it all the way. Yeah,
and the storyline sort of being driven by that move is Jericho is being real obnoxious about telling Sammy, do what I tell you, and jump and risk your life to ruin his, right?
Yeah. And then, of course...
I definitely heard the commentators call out, ooh, Sting got more of that than I hoped.
Yeah, and then there was also, like, they did a cutter to him on the apron, and people said he got domed by it. Like, he went, like, head first into it. So, Sting definitely took a lot more in this match than he likely was supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, oh, man. But, it was a pretty good match. I like the way that, a lot of people put it, where it was like, it was a bit of a cool down match, but also at the same time, you know, it still had its moments to it.
It had moments. The fun one was like Sammy and Jericho posing, right? And then Minoru Suzuki comes in, Mr. No Nonsense comes in and then joins the pose as well. That was good.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. And of course,
I'm pretty frustrated with this funny storyline they're having, where Jericho's like, I don't want nothing to do with Sting. And then he's like, you want something to do with me? And I honestly can't. I wish Sting were more vocal in how disinterested he is in Jericho. Because it's like super one-sided. And Jericho's like, want to fight me for the first time in our lives? And I wish Sting was like, no, not really.
Oh, man.
But I hate to bring up the scrum again, right? But Sting and Darby are there to answer questions. And Jericho comes in to LOL, OMG, I'm so outrageous with his bat. And he's like, I challenge you to Wednesday. Make it happen, Tony. Hits a water bottle, which hits a media guy in the face. But it was so forced. It was like, you're going to get in my business? Like, I don't understand. Jericho, your business was the match? You were all in? Like, no one stepped out of turn.
Yeah. Definitely am really interested to see where this is going, because, like, I doubt it's a Sting singles match, because, like, I don't think we've seen a single Sting match, like, in AEW since he's been there. Like, I can't think. It's always been
got
tagged.
The power to, like, what was it? What happened? I think there's definitely a moment in this match where he just pops up again, right? Like,
yeah.
He's just like, that didn't faze me at all. Remember? He's like, he's super OP?
Yeah. Oh, man. And, of course, Naito gets the win here. He gets the pinfall for it.
With a Destino?
Yeah. That was real fun to see. Finally glad to see him on the show after missing last year. And it sucks, too, because Hiromu missed last year, and I wish he could have gotten... You know, he got the match of LFI, but like you mentioned... Or not LFI. LIJ. But like you mentioned earlier in part 1, you kind of wish you could have seen him and Shingo in different action, because they even mentioned it themselves. I don't know if you saw, but like on social media, like Hiromu was like, oh, I was glad to be a part of the show, but it was technically New Japan versus New Japan. Like, it wasn't really him versus AEW guys.
Yes. Just like Willow versus Tony. You're like, this is, or Elite versus BCC. You're like, this is AEW.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. I would have loved to see BCC versus LIJ.
Yeah, that would have been pretty fun.
Elite versus United Empire.
Yeah. But move on to our main event, which is truly New Japan Pro Wrestling versus AEW here. Highly touted match going into it. It's Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada. No, I like this line from commentary. There's no championship on the line, but there is a title, and that title is best in the world.
Dang.
I thought that was a real good line from commentary.
How much time we have?
6 minutes.
Okay. Danielson gets the final countdown. They paid a lot of money to make this happen and make this feel big and special.
Yeah. So I have to quickly give the visual, because I don't know if I've ever said it on this podcast, but I have been waiting for this moment for like essentially forever since he joined AEW, where I was like, Tony Khan does a lot of licensing for music. He got Wild Thing for Jon Moxley. For some random reason, he got Many Men by 50 Cent for the Guns for an entrance. You know, so I was
Carry on My Wayward Son for the Elite.
Yeah, so I was like, one of these days, I know it's going to be expensive, but if it's a big enough occasion, I know he'll do this. And I honestly was expecting Wembley. So I'm sitting there and I'm just like, oh, it's gonna be his regular entrance. So I'm sharing the event with Ricardo and a couple other friends have joined at this point. And so I'm sitting here just talking with them. My dad's sitting next to me, and I see the entrance coming, but like I'm not paying attention until I hear that opening start. And I wish my dad was here so he could tell you the way he put it. He's never seen me so happy before, especially for an entrance in wrestling. But I audibly popped and started going crazy the moment I realized he got the final countdown, and no better occasion than facing off against Okada for it.
The final countdown, the crowd were hyped.
Yeah, and then not only that, when Okada came out, not only did the money rain down, but it was, I saw someone specifically mention, it was the golden dollar bills.
Yes, they were.
So, like, they were truly doing everything.
The Rainmaker. Hey, I don't know if you saw this in the highlights for the media scrum. One, Tony Khan lets out how much it costs to get the song, and he says it's just going to be this one time and maybe another, big event later. But he says that it's like a wrestler's contract worth of money. I'm like, that was a funny thing to say. But then also, Danielson said that before the music hit, he was upset by something wrestling related. And the song made him smile. Nobody in that room asked Jack. Somebody should ask him what he was mad about.
See, this is why I have a lot of gripes with media in general, because they never ask the question. Like Gio and I were doing this one episode for the podcast about like an artist that we like because he dropped an album, and I was telling them on that episode too, I was like, dude, it's not me trying to think I'm better than anyone, but if I was interviewing someone, I would be asking them the questions people actually want to hear, and not asking an artist questions that you would know the answer to already. Like, oh, like, what's your birthday? Like, like that. Like, no, like I would ask him, what was your mindset going into making this song? And so similarly, it's like, ask the questions people want to hear. Like, I hate when these scrums happen and like they ask the safe questions. They ask the questions that like you already know the answer for. Like, they ask them a question that like they're forced to like they don't give they don't force the wrestler to answer it honestly. Like a lot of times when they ask them a question, like a lot of these wrestlers, they cop out and go with the kayfabe approach answer.
Yeah.
So it's like, ask them a question where they can't, get out of it. Ask them the stuff that you want to hear, that get their real answers to.
How much time do we have?
2 minutes. I don't think we're going to be able to talk about this match in that.
We just getting started. We just got out to the ring being played up by Europe's Final Countdown. And Jack's coming in hot again, coming after people, the members of the wrestling and music media, with their softball questions.
Yeah, man. You got to start asking the real questions.
Goodness.
But
hey, Danielson, great match tonight. Hope the arm heals. Hey, you said you were mad earlier. What happened back there, huh? What happened?
Does it have to deal with a man who has the letter CM in him?
I'm just saying. Did my buddy Christopher Membribas, assistant principal for Bloomfield, have anything to do with this?
Yeah. Oh, man. But I guess we'll need that little supplement episode. But thank you for joining for this episode. Tune into the next episode where we cover Danielson versus Okada, and of course the questions we proposed at the start. Is this second Omega Ospreay match better than the one at the start of the year? And did this event surpass the first one?
Let's go.